Welcome to the Wealth Stream Podcast. The team at Hightower Great Lakes share their insights and passions for empowering their clients to live their best life. In this energetic podcast, we will take you on a journey to help you navigate your financial future, overcome life's challenges to reach your financial goals, and find the financial clarity you've been searching for. Let's explore the downstream impact of your wealth and what it means to you, your family, and your community to live greater.
Hello and welcome to the Wealth Stream with Tim Scannell from Hightower Great Lakes. Today, Tim has a special guest on the show. That is Blair Anderson. He's one of the partners at Hightower Great Lakes. Good morning, Tim. How are you?
Eric, I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing fantastic.
Awesome.
It's a great day. And Tim, you and I and Blair have just spoken briefly before we hit that record button for this podcast. And Blair's a fantastic guy. So why'd you bring him on the show today?
Well, we've talked in all the podcasts, or most of the podcasts, about what I think is a pretty unique wealth management formula. And we work with our clients with with investment planning, but we also focus a great deal on advanced planning concepts, wealth transfer, helping them protect their assets, charitable giving. And, I've said many times on these podcasts, I'm definitely not smart enough to do it all. So relationship management, working with the client's professional team is critical, but also it's critical that we kind of formulate with each client specifically a plan in terms of how do they want to work with our team. And Blair is a really important part of Hightower Great Lakes. One of the reasons why back a couple of years ago now, we decided to merge my practice in with Blair and with Steve is because he just brings so many more skills and skill sets that I don't. So I think together we're all better and we're all better advocates for our clients. And so that's
Great.
a long explanation, Eric, as to why I really felt it's important to bring on Blair today.
Great. Well, Blair, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
So Blair, what I thought I'd do is just kind of go through and, we typically have a discovery process with our clients, and this isn't really like an interview or anything, but just talk about, ask you a couple things, some of your history, like, for example, talk a little bit, if you could, about, why you became a financial advisor.
That's a great question. I think a long time ago when I was really young, I was introduced to a fantastic woman who was one of the first upper executives at IBM, kind of one of the first women to break the glass ceiling, as they referred to it. And she taught me how to read the Wall Street Journal on Sundays after church. And of course, specifically, we'd look at IBM stock a lot. But it really got me thinking about how you could dedicate some time, money, and investment to things and kind of watch them grow without efforts of your own. Of course, you had to pick the right things, but they would just grow on their own. So every Sunday we'd take a look at IBM and it'd go up and down, and we'd talk about why and what happened. And it just really triggered a spark in me about the markets. And shortly thereafter, I met another person from the same church who traded commodities. And we would get together and review 30-year U.S. Treasury futures when I was just a teenager in high school. And it just really sparked an interest to participate in the markets and eventually, start investing.
Well, it sounds like one common theme you just mentioned, and I know from knowing you, it's an important part of your life, church. It sounds like you get a lot of networking value beyond, the faith, but a lot of resources from your church. Does that sound right?
It is, absolutely. It's kind of, regardless of what faith or religion or thing you do, it's a place where you congregate once or twice a week, and you get to know people and you share and you grow relationships. And that's basically what got me into the industry I'm in today for the last 30 years is those two people educating me about something I didn't know and something that I ended up being really interested in.
That's awesome. So I know I could never ask people how old they are, but you just mentioned 30 years in the business. So you're at least 40, right?
Yeah. 40 with another 13 years on top of that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I've been doing it for a while. You're right.
On the podcast, we've interviewed, or I've talked to, Justin and Samantha on our team who are more in the starting out phase. Not that you're on the back end, you're probably just in the middle of your career phase, but what is your favorite part of your job, at this point in your career?
Well, I think at this point, the favorite part of my job is the specific relationships with each client. Each client obviously is different from the other, and they have different personalities, they have different needs, different goals, and, different financial assets. And it's just great to talk to each of them, hear about their life, what's going on, work with them to accomplish their goals, and see that happen over the years. I mean, as we just talked about how many years I've been doing it, I've seen people have children go off to college, and then go on to get married. And so you're sort of part of that. It's almost like having a broader extended family.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. It's fun. I've had one example where I'm working on the third business transition to the third generation, and it's just a blast, because knowing how it all went in the beginning. So that me too. That's the relationship part is what I love the most. Not that every business has challenges, but are there particular parts of the job that you find most challenging?
I think we are fortunate enough, Tim, to have success, and with success, comes the demands of those clients or referrals to other people. And I think right now one of the biggest challenges is just making sure that I appropriately have the time I need to meet all of those clients' requests. And that's what's been great about, merging our practices and developing, what we so often refer to as our next gen leadership with Don Stellan and Samantha and Justin and so forth and Wes, that we know we have the people in place to continue meeting those client needs. It's not as much the markets. I think I've kind of grown accustomed to the volatility and how the clients will react, and in some cases sort of get to expect that. But it's just more about making sure you have the time to do exactly what the client needs and help them meet those needs.
So how do you do that? And, when we work with clients, there's often super complicated, lots of different balls in the air, tax planning, estate planning, all these things. So how do you manage your schedule, your life? What do you, in terms of prioritizing to make sure you can accomplish those goals you just mentioned?
Well, one thing for starters is you don't take on, more than you can handle. And in those cases, when I'm given a referral and somebody has some needs, I can see what those are pretty clearly from the get-go and recognize that Justin, Samantha, Don, or Wes would be much more appropriate and able to meet those clients' needs while I'm working through an estate case. And currently right now, I am working through an estate case, which is very complicated, will be more complicated, and will have more demands. So one of the things I do in that situation is I communicate to the client timelines from experience. This is what you should expect. This is what's going to happen. The process takes a while. You're dealing with probate, estates, trusts, attorneys, documents. And by communicating historical experience, it helps set their expectations for what they can expect.
Oh, that makes sense. And along those lines, when talking to Samantha and Justin recently, and they're focusing on getting their CFP, and we're all, as advisors, life changes so quickly, the laws change so quickly. We're all, always studying, continuing education. Is there, now that, you're at this phase where it sounds like a lot more is, your skills or leadership is, leading your clients, guiding your clients, leading the team. What are some of the professional skills maybe you're working on now versus maybe 15 years ago, especially in light of like technology changes, things like that?
Well, absolutely. Technology changes, especially in relationship to COVID, was one of them, making sure we could clearly communicate through new venues such as Zoom, separate from conference calling and so forth. But I would say separate from the technology and learning, one of the other things that I try to stay on top of is current policy change. So Biden's proposing new tax planning, new things that might come to fruition, being aware of what those are. How's that going to affect our charitable giving clients? How's that going to affect are small business owners that are contemplating a sale of a business. And then making sure you continue to interact, which is one of my big goals, interact in those fields.
And then once you have the strategies in mind, once you've comfortable that these are strategies that our clients, people out there who aren't our clients but our centers of influence, can use. What's your approach to communicating that or disseminating that information to make sure that people out there know that we can help them with these constantly changing rules?
Pretty much, it's a great question, Tim. To boil it down in a simple way, it's a two-step process. One, we might write a white paper about the potential changes in the estate taxation that Biden's proposing, and we'll email communicate that to all of our clients and post it on the website. And that essentially is pretty generic. You have to rely on the fact that, are your clients going to read that? Are they going to go take a look at that, and so forth? But then the second step is sitting back for a moment, evaluating what current events are occurring with your clients, current meaning in the next 1 to 2 years, and how these policy changes might address those. And then we'll specifically communicate that same white paper directly to that client with a request for a conversation to discuss options or potential strategy changes.
Okay, that makes sense. And then, along those lines, I know I've talked about it several times on different podcasts. It seems to me like the theme of having a really strong team and, clients working with a strong team with a diverse set of skills, professionals as fiduciaries. Talk a little bit about, why, far into your career you thought it made sense to merge into Hightower Great Lakes.
Well, essentially, when we talked about the example of new information and how we get that to clients, you have to literally write that up in a marketing deck. You have to get it approved by your compliance department. And then you have to get it sent out through a client relationship software program like Marketo or something. And so there's a lot of steps to just one simple idea. And if I wanted to do that all myself, I might have the capability to do that. But the question is do I have the capacity? And the idea and importance of merging the practices and creating Hightower Great Lakes is we have dedicated marketing people on our team that do some of those job details that are required to get that information out. So my task might be getting the expert information, putting it together in a way that can be communicated. And then I turn that over to our marketing department, who's then going to get it approved through compliance, get it pushed out to our clients so they have it, and then follow up with me having the time again, since I'm not doing that work, to reach back out directly to our clients. That same example relates to financial planning, where just taking the input information of a client can be done by one of our CFP, put into a plan and created. That gives me the time then to review plans as opposed to just putting in the detailed information. And that gives me the time then to communicate with the client about different options. So that's another example where we have financial planning capabilities on our team now that we're merged, where those people can focus their attention on those sectors or goals and leave other people with the opportunity and time to communicate to clients or gather specific information. So one of the biggest benefits of creating Hightower Great Lakes is all of the saved synergies that we get to share amongst one another. And that's been even down to the investment side of it, where we have two partners that focus on the investment side of things, our structure of how we're going to invest, best tools to use while investing, best managers, etc. And they can spend their time researching that information, knowing that there's a separate group handling the financial planning, handling the new policy change communication marketing, and then even separate individuals that we have, our client service associates, who handle incoming requests from clients. So the biggest benefit was the synergies that were created and the opportunity to have multiple people doing different tasks instead of one person being pulled in too many different directions and not really being able to execute to the level they wish on all things.
Yeah, that's very similar to my thought process also. And if I put in my time machine for you and have pushed you back even further, back to, February of 2009, you had been with another firm for a while, and you came to this conclusion that you needed to affiliate with Hightower. So even, just talk a little bit, if you don't mind, about why even Hightower, because certainly the path of least resistance, or the easy way to go, would just been stay where you were. But there must have been some key things related to making the move, because, as I know, I went through it also. It's never hard to make a change like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. At the time, at the Wall Street firm that I was working for, I'd get calls a lot to leave and go to another firm. And that's all for, bonuses, cash, monetary basis. And what I was learning was that, that would just be going from one frying pan, into the fire by making a change that way. But when I received an introduction to Hightower, what I learned was this was a company that was being put together to support an advisor's practice and have no conflicts of interest with the client. What a lot of investors are not aware of is that all of these large Wall Street brokerage firms are for-profit corporations with shareholders. And there's nothing wrong with that. But their primary objective is to make profits for the corporation. And so what I was starting to experience at this Wall Street firm was policies put in place that had no benefit except a cost to the client, and then policies put in place that, reduced benefits to myself. And I really thought moving to Hightower is going to provide me a platform with an unobstructed view, no conflicts of interest to clients, and just a company that is sourced and built to support my practice. And that's why I made the move. What was interesting about it was I have the choice to work with multiple custodians as opposed to one. And that allows me to provide better pricing to my clients because I'll have multiple custodians wanting that business, so they provide the best price at the time. When you work with just one Wall Street firm, they don't have to compete for anything because they have all your business. I also learned that a lot of money managers or investment vehicles I would use would pay fees to be a part of those Wall Street platforms. So my clients are now experiencing reduced fees. The same thing goes with some of our custodians we use right now that offer very low lending rates. Cost to borrow money is very low. Well, when you work at a Wall Street firm, they offer you the ability to borrow money. It's referred to as on margin, but they mark that up so they can receive profits on that. Right now, when my custodians offer a rate for margin, there's no markup. It goes straight to the client at the lowest fee. So those are some of the primary reasons that working with Hightower is a company that supports my practice without any conflicts or fees to the client. And I pay Hightower a platform fee, and my client only pays me the fee for my investment management. So it just became a much better scenario, much clearer picture without any conflicts for clients.
Well, I'm delighted you did, because that's where we met. And, it's funny because we both grew up in the Chicagoland area, and we ended up meeting outside of Chicago. So I was in Valparaiso, Indiana. When I joined Hightower, you were up in Traverse City, Michigan. So, how did you end up in Traverse City, Michigan?
Well, I started my practice, like you said, in Chicago, in a suburb, Oak Brook, Illinois. And I had attended a summer camp as a kid, and then went and became a camp counselor. And that is where I met my wife today, Deborah. And she was living up in northern Michigan in Traverse City, where this camp is located. And when we decided to get married, she is a successful interior designer. She thought, I can make the move to Chicago and work out of the merchandise mart. And I thought, well, I'd really enjoy raising a family in northern Michigan. So we decided to relocate in Traverse City. and
Awesome.
build my practice there as well.
Yeah, it's so you drive for the family. I agree. That's when I talk to people, that's usually what happens. It's a style of life or lifestyle that you're looking for. Beyond business. So, share with the listener maybe a fun fact about you or something you like to do outside of work.
Well, let's see. Fun things I like to do outside of work. I love to cook. I take a lot of cooking classes. I probably love to cook because I enjoy to eat.
Of course, yeah.
That's one thing. I do enjoy golf. Lately, I've been picking that up some more. I've always been an avid outdoorsman with shooting sporting clays. That's always been fun. Fishing, being on the water in the boat. Fun fact that a lot of clients and people that get to know me are surprised about, if they haven't read my website or anything like that, is that I served in a special forces unit of the military as an Army Airborne Ranger. I think my character now, and kind of a joyful, happy guy, they're always surprised by that when they hear that, and always have a few questions about my experience in the military, which was a great one. But those are a few fun facts about me. This summer, you'll find me on off days and nights, maybe behind a ski boat, wake surfing, and
Nice.
Or you might find me on some hikes or canoeing with my wife down a Missouri River sometime. But that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. So let's finish with kind of a final question for you. When you think about your clients, what's your greatest hope for your clients that you're meeting with?
One of the things I share with people getting into this business now, and one of the things I share with clients when you're first meeting them and you're working with them, is you can really feel, because a lot of times before they come to us, they don't have any type of plan, and they don't, they're not organized. There's no rhyme or reason to what they're doing financially. And there's this aha moment where the client literally sits back in the chair and breathes a sigh of relief about understanding their plan, knowing how they're going to get to their goals and what they need to do to accomplish those goals. And that's my biggest desire for clients, is to have that aha moment of relief, knowing that they're all organized, they're all put together. Even if something were to happen to them, they know that their spouse, partner, children are all going to be taken care of, because we've dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's. And that aha moment is really what I like to see my clients experience, and has always been our goal from day one.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's why I'm so grateful to be in Hightower Great Lakes, partners with you, Steve, Wes, part of our whole team, our 14-member team. So if someone wants to reach out to you, Blair, and get a hold of you to get more information or talk about maybe doing a discovery meeting, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, there's a few different ways. One of the probably simplest ways would be to hop onto our website at Hightower Advisors Great Lakes, and or they can reach out to me on the phone, by calling 231-941-7130, and then through email at banderson@hightoweradvisors.com. And I'm always reachable. And of course, if I'm doing a podcast like I am now, or on the phone with a client,
Or
we're very
wakeboarding.
quick to call. Yeah, or wakeboarding. We're quick to
Exactly.
call back.
Yeah.
If you call during a business day, you'll have a call back that same day or within 24 hours.
Yeah,
And
that's my experience with you too, which is awesome.
that's great. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
Guys, this has been a fantastic podcast. Blair, I've been blessed to get to know you a little bit through this podcast, through this experience. I know that the listening audience has definitely got some insight into you and learned more about Hightower Great Lakes. This is fantastic. So thank you so much for being on the show. Tim, of course, thank you for setting this up and bringing Blair onto the show. And our last thank you always goes to you, the listening audience. Thank you for tuning in and listening to the Wellstream Podcast with Tim Scannell. If you have not subscribed to the podcast yet, please click the subscribe now button below. This way, when Tim comes out with a new podcast, it'll show up directly on your listening device. This makes it much easier to share these podcasts with your friends and family. Again, thank you so much for listening today. For everyone at Hightower Great Lakes, this is Eric Johnson reminding you to live your best day every day. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Wealth Stream podcast. We hope you gained some valuable insight that you can apply to your life and share with others. Please don't forget to subscribe below to be notified when new episodes become available. And don't forget to live greater. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Hightower Great Lakes. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning. Hightower Great Lakes is a group of investment professionals registered with Hightower Securities LLC, member FINRA and SIPC, and with Hightower Advisors LLC, a registered investment advisor with the SEC. Securities are offered through Hightower Securities LLC. Advisory services are offered through Hightower Advisors LLC.